One of the most mind-blowing things for me as a kid was eventually getting Mario Land 2 for my Game Boy after already owning Mario Land and thinking, wait, this is actually on the same machine? Luckily I wasn't old enough, because being old sucks yet, that I can say that I saw the jump from Mario Bros 1 to 3 because I grew up with the All Stars version, and since both games looked the same in that game, I never knew how much of an achievement that was till I became older and learned about it. That's not the only thing that made it so special for me though. The biggest reason for my love for Mario Land 2 is its locations, and through time that love just grew and grew each time they made a new 2D Mario game, because no other game ever reached the peaks of the worlds I have seen and played through in it. Hey, Bowser's up to no good again. Now it's up to you, Mario. Go save the Mushroom Kingdom and fight the same bosses, go through the same locations, and then save the princess at the end. That's how everyone knows 2D Mario, and also the 3D games too, to a degree. Mario Land 2 though, it just threw all that away. It just thought, hey, I want to be the black sheep of the franchise. Not because I'm bad or anything like that, but because I want to be different. It's like having 6 kids and most of them grew up normally, but then one of them has their emo face and wants to stand out. And yes, I had an emo phase too. Maybe I'm still going through it. Mario Land 2 does that by just giving you the weirdest locations possible for a Mario game without any of the other familiar characters. No Mushroom Kingdom, no Peach, no Bowser, no Daisy. You don't even collect green mushrooms to get 1-ups. You actually collect hearts that give you lives. I actually always play the DX version nowadays that gives the game colors and stuff, and in that version they actually do change them to the usual 1-ups, so don't be surprised if you see them here. There's not many things that at a first glance would make you think, hey, it's a Mario game, except for Mario himself and some of the enemies. And that was the point of the game. They wanted to create a weird Mario game that's a little bit different than the usual Mario games. According to an interview in the game's guidebook, which was translated by Smuptulations, they said they did not want to be bound to the conventions of the other Mario games, and that they even went overboard with it at first. I really want to see the original draft for it and see what they came up with that made the others at Nintendo think, yep, maybe that's a bit too far out there. I think they still succeeded to create a world that appeals to Mario's manly heart. Not a single level in the game feels like something you have already seen in any other Mario before and after, except for the very first level, which is just you running around a totally normal grassy field kind of level. It's just what you kinda expect, a tradition that can be broken, but most of the time it just stays the way it is. Imagine booting up a Sonic game and the very first level is in Green Hill Zone. Actually, most people would be well happy about that nowadays, I think. So even Mario Land 2 isn't safe from its Mario-ness at points. But then right after that level, you actually get to choose where you want to go. It's like a whole theme park for you, where you can pick the attraction that interests you the most first. You don't have to ride a ride for babies first. You can immediately go to the star of the park, unlike in any other one, where you have to play through the worlds in a set order and only rarely allows you to pick between like 2 levels to go to the next. You want to first visit the graveyard because you're a fan of Halloween? Go ahead, you can just do that. But on the way there you actually spot a giant toy Mario and want to go inside of him instead? Yep, just do that. This is what Americans talk about when they talk about freedom, I think. The only downside of it is that one thing in the game suffers because of it, its difficulty, but more about that later. So the whole world is at your feet, and regardless of what you pick, it's something new. None of these locations have existed before. My biggest problem about modern Mario is just how samey the locations have to be, with the big exception of Odyssey recently. How is Odyssey allowed to have things like the Luncheon Kingdom, some post-apocalyptic kingdom like the Wooded Kingdom, or even Metro Kingdom? Those are the kind of worlds that are needed in 2D Mario, and one that just continued taking the template of the new Mario Bros games with a fresh coat of paint. After the wonder of playing it for a bit, it just felt so by the numbers yet again. The Wonder Seed sections were fun, but only for a short time, each time. The rest of the levels were mostly just grassy fields again, a desert that is an actual dessert desert made out of cakes and other sweets, some cloudy levels and so on. Obviously it had some rather new locations like something like the Fungi Mines, but in the end even the new locations were locations that made you think, wow, this is so new, I've never seen something like this before in Mario. They made a whole game set in a totally different kingdom, but why? Instead of making the new Flower Kingdom, you could have just said the whole game plays in the Mushroom Kingdom and nothing would have changed. Nobody would have complained and said something like, wow, this doesn't feel like the Mushroom Kingdom I know, I hate you now, Nintendo. Imagine if Nintendo was open to have Mario jump through something like the Metro Kingdom in 2D. Now that would actually be something new, not just a world that already existed, just with some tiny differences to an earlier version of it. Jumping over incoming cars, swinging from lanterns and all that. If it works for Mario in 3D, why can't it also work in 2D? Because Mario Land 2 perfectly shows that it can work. People fondly remember it, especially because of its weirdness. Not every Mario game has to be completely new, but how about a nice mix? You can still make Mario run around on clouds, which existed before, but you can also then make him walk around the graveyard with random yokais as enemies like here. Inserting some older Mario enemies like the Boos too when they fit, because then you can feel it also has some of that old Mario DNA. I get where Nintendo is coming from. You can take Mario out of this game and insert some random failed jump and run mascot from the 90s and it wouldn't make you think that there's something missing here. But why does it have to matter? Oh yeah, for brand recognition nowadays. I feel this is one of those stubborn Nintendo moments where the average consumer would not care in the slightest if Mario suddenly has creative levels like being instead of a whale again, but the higher ups think, nah, we can't do that well because Mario is about grassy fields and mushrooms, you know? Let's ignore that Mario even gets swallowed by a whale in the movie, but you know. Sadly, my uncle does not work at Nintendo, so I have no insights into the deeper works at what's happening at Nintendo sometimes. But this also goes the other way. If I took a random mascot that I just randomly designed in 5 minutes and put it into Mario, does it look out of place? Obviously it does, because we are just used to the way Mario 2D games look like nowadays. It doesn't feel right to see someone else that isn't part of the established Mushroom Kingdom lore, whatever you want to call it, inside of it. But if we take Wonder and one of the newer looking locations of it, does it still look out of place with no mushrooms, no Goombas, no Koopas, etc. around? Not that much really. I'm not a brain researcher, so I don't know how our brains really work, and most people don't. Sometimes things just feel right and sometimes they don't. When Odyssey was first revealed and we got a look at the Metro Kingdom, tons of people thought it looks out of place and doesn't fit Mario. Then the game released and nobody complained anymore because it just fit anyways. Help that it's one of the best kingdoms in the game. Seeing Mario running around in weird locations in 2D, in a higher resolution and all that, would maybe look weird too at first, but you would just get used to it. I just think it's sad how 2D Mario abandoned those weird roots for its locations for so many years now. You allow Mario to turn into a gooey mess to stick to walls, turning him into an elephant and other crazy things in Wonder, but then you can't also make him run in locations that can fit the same kind of craziness in them? The same goes for the bosses. Everyone complains about the Koopalings being overused. What does Nintendo do? Uses them again. Everyone complains about Bowser Jr. being overused. What does Nintendo do? Uses them again. While here in Mario Land 2 you got the most random bosses possible that never ever showed up again, because why would they have to? What's so bad about enemies that don't show up in every other game? Again, look at Odyssey. It got a big bad dragon for a little boss fight where they just thought, wouldn't it be funny to actually fight a somewhat realistic dragon just for the gag? Why is this getting denied from the 2D Mario fans? Why can't we have random stuff like these 3 little piggies again? This time they could even include the missing wolf. Nothing pointed at you fighting them. Maybe you would expect to fight a toy Mario or something since the whole idea of the stage is going through him. But then they just pull out a random reference to a fairy tale, and it does not cheapen the game at all. You know what actually makes a player dislike your boss fights? Having no creativity at all and reusing basically the same fight 5 times with the same boss. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend the bosses in Mario Land 2 are something extremely special, because they mostly are way too easy, and what do? You jump on their heads, which is the solution to every single 2D Mario boss in the history of them. You really just jump on them all the time and they try to not make you jump on them. People who make Mario ROM hacks can come up with better bosses than that without going over the Kaizo mode. They can make bosses that make you think they wouldn't be out of place in a normal Mario game, same with the Mario Maker levels even sometimes. Like, why can't Nintendo make good bosses in 2D? I'm just kinda sad. All of this makes me sound like a total hater, but I am not. I just really wish Mario would get that 10 out of 10 game again that hasn't existed since Mario Bros. 3 for me. Please don't hate me too hard, Mario World fans. I still like that game too, but it wasn't anything mind-blowing to me, even as a kid already, so please don't hate me. Actually, you can hate me, but not too hard, but I actually like it, so Because for me, Mario in 2D sadly hasn't been that unbeatable franchise that it maybe once was, sitting alone at the absolute throne of jumpin' ones. Back then it felt like every time a new 2D Mario was coming out, it's gonna be the magnum opus of the whole genre. Something that can't be topped till it's actually topped. Now it's just a fun series for me. I still like to play them, but nothing more, nothing less. Nothing in them blows my mind. Neither the movement nor the locations make me think, wow, I'm playing something truly special here, which is totally fine too. It sells and Nintendo is fine with it, I guess. But one thing that Wonder did as well as Mario Land 2 was the enemy design. They added so many great new cute enemies in there, and here it's the same. You got Goombas, Koopas, and then basically almost everyone else is a new friend. You got Ant, who is an ant, because ants are needed in nature because they got their reasons. Barrow, who is a Japanese paper lantern yokai called Chochin Obake and enjoys licking, because who doesn't? He looks really sad though, and that makes me sad too. The collector who likes to try to steal the 1-ups you find in the level, and it's just so cute for some reason. Trying to steal from you. I kinda want them to succeed, but well, I need the 1-ups. Kuro Kiora, who is basically just Count Dracula, and it makes me think, damn, Dracula is canon in the Mario franchise. And also Dracula's friend, little tiny Jason. Apparently they are just a variant of a normal Goomba in the Mario manga, but I don't believe that. This surely can't just be a Goomba with a Jason mask on, right? Then you also got the Moo Fish. It's a cow that is also a fish kinda. For some reason I always thought of them as a bit creepy when I played the game as a kid because, well, it's a weird mix. I was easily scared as a kid and still am. You got Jack in the boxes. Instead of getting a coin out of a block, you just get greeted by him who tries to hurt you, because I don't already have enough people trying to hurt me. And there's many more, but my absolute favorite is Bear, who is just a bear on a ball who looks really pissed off. Adorable. There's obviously even more, but those were just my favorites. There's also many other differences to the other Mario games, such as gathering 100 coins doing nothing, unless you enjoy spending your money on gambling, because that's how you will spend them at the casino, which isn't really a casino but just a slot kind of a machine where you can win big or not win big. I never won more than like 5 1-ups here. I'm an unlucky person. Luckily it's easy to get tons of them at the bonus games that you can acquire just like in the first Land game. Kinda. In Land 1 you had to enter the upper door at the end of a level. Here you just have to hit the bell, which is kinda like the upper door because sometimes it's fairly hard to reach. Then you get one of 2 bonus games. One of them being a crane game that is extremely easy to get these 3 1-ups, and a ladder game where you have to pick your route but little mice bite the cables. For some reason I always picked the second one, and it basically always ended up at the 1-up for like 10 times in a row. Maybe I do be lucky sometimes, but in the end, never ever gamble. Also, there's an enemy death counter, and after killing 100 enemies you get a star, which you can use now to try to kill enough enemies in a short time to gain lives, which is kinda dumb. I never really pay attention to the counter, so sometimes I just kill the 100th enemy and get the star even though no enemies are around, so I totally wasted it. They should have just gave Mario a life for being a genocidal dude when just killing hundreds of enemies, instead of making it some kind of tactical experience where they maybe thought people would actually pay attention to it and keep the count at 99 till they saw a fitting opportunity. The only bad thing I have to say about Mario Land 2 is that it's maybe too easy, thanks to you not having a linear progression like the other games. No Mario game is truly hard. Even World 8 in Mario Bros. 3 isn't that unbeatable hellhole that many people describe it as, but in most Mario games you can feel the curve getting a bit higher towards the end. Here that curve is pretty much non-existent, since every world is open to you. Sure, some of the levels are a tiny bit harder than others, but overall, not by much. The only level that could be fairly challenging from the normal levels is the Star Maze, because it's an auto-scroller that makes you think you're playing a shoot 'em up, and people are not too used to those. But does every game have to be outright challenging? For me it's like a relaxing walk in a park. I can always just play it and enjoy my time with it without having to sweat. Just walking through the levels, jumping around, doing the usual bing bing wahoo stuff you do, with no troubles in the world. A simple little adventure in a world that's just silly, like me. I like being a silly little guy, everyone should. Unless you're tall, then you can be a tall silly guy. Everyone needs some silliness in their life. Can you believe that the test players of it actually also thought the game is too hard, according to the same interview from earlier, so they had to fine-tune it? I really want to play the original test version now. Also, I will forever be a hater of power-ups that give Mario the ability to fly. Doesn't matter if it's the Tanuki suit, despite it being really cute, the cape or also the bunny Mario here. Mario shouldn't be able to just fly over most parts of the levels. That's lame. It's also no fun. It makes me wonder why Nintendo was so obsessed with letting Mario fly during these years. You probably thought I forgot one important thing about the difficulty, but I have not, since I will now talk about that. It actually pulls the curve up in the very last level of the game, Vario's Castle. Every single level before was pretty easy, but now the game throws everything at you. Swinging balls that will hurt you, shooting piranha plant statues, things falling from the ceiling, moving platforms where you actually have to time your jump really well, traps on the floor that you can easily avoid if you know they're there, and also weird flying faces who resemble Wario and make you think, what is their purpose in life? Were they really just created to protect Wario's castle? Were they failed clowns? I feel a bit bad for them, even though I have as little purpose as they do in life, since I have zero ambitions since I was a kid. But the actual mind-blowing thing about the game is that you can run over these things. You don't even need to jump. Despite these stairs looking impossible to cross by just running, I watched a speedrun of this game and I was like, why is this allowed? Why can you do that? I wonder how I ever figured out that you can run over one tile big house in the original Mario game and most of the others. Probably also through videos on the internet. Or maybe I actually just did it as a kid without ever realizing it. I have to say, nowadays I have no more problems with this level, but I have beaten Mario Land 2 so many times by now. It just has the perfect length to play it every once in a while and beat it in one sitting, because it may only take you like 40 minutes when you know the game already. When I recorded my gameplay, I actually wanted to take a little break and did a save state, and when I tried to load it, this happened. Lost 2 whole coins, wow. The thing is, I wasn't even mad. If I played Mario World and lost the progress of 2 islands, I would have said, man, don't feel like playing anymore here. I just happily played the levels again because everything feels so short, which could be a problem to some people, but not to me here. It also was Wario's first appearance, so every Wario fan needs to worship the game just because of that, even if he did look a lot more goblin-like in this one. The soundtrack is more to just whatever, it's not really totally bad, but for the most part it doesn't really get stuck in your head except for the Star Maze song. This is an old-timer and I'm a bit sad they never used it again. It could have totally fit into Mario Galaxy or the Moon in Odyssey, instead it's just forgotten. Mario Land 2 will forever have a special place in my heart because it will always be the weirdest 2D Mario game and most likely will never get a true follow-up to it, which is just a bit sad. I would even take a remake if they would remake it together with Mario Land 1 and sell it for 30 bucks, but Nintendo would most likely just remake one of the games and then sell it for almost full price despite them being extremely short, unless they added bonus content. Yay. Maybe one day I will get my wish and 2D Mario will go back to being a bit weird again, but in the meantime all I can say is that I hope you enjoyed the video and will have a good night, or good day, or whatever fits your time zone. Before going to bed you should play for Mario Land 2 tonight. Just emulate it or play it on Nintendo Switch online thingy. There's always time for one quick playthrough of it. Bye bye.